Tonight, I'm asking for the vote of every single African American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future. And at the end of 4 years, I guarantee you that I will get over 95% of the African American vote. I promise you.
It is a case of polar opposites, where a Republican nominee preaches divisiveness through his campaign.
I wanted people to see the humanity, and I think that's what comes through more. Like, come for the entertainment, but leave with an understanding.
And from a place of compassion in The Roots' founding member, Amir Questlove Thompson.
One of the things I'd do, Ricardo, is I would do stop and frisk. I think you have to. We did it in New York. It worked incredibly well. It's so unsafe where you walk down the street and you get shot.
This is a flat-out lie from Donald Trump. Meanwhile,
it is absolutely probably the most humiliating, lowest feeling a human being can have. Twice this happened in front of dates. And all I kept thinking about was like, man, like, nothing's more emasculating than to be emasculated in front of a girl that you like. You know, like, there's just no coming back from that. And it's sort of like an unspoken thing. Like, I always felt like, even afterwards, like, there's this unspoken cloud of the question of my manhood. What do? I mean, how much more can I play it safe? Like, I'm already, like, purposely taking myself out of situations because I want to avoid that. But I don't know how much more I can suppress myself to not seem like a threat or be a threat.
Here are the real-life ramifications of the policy, where Questlove has fallen victim to racial profiling time and time again.
I'm giving you my opinion. It says he's not an artist, he's a thug, and I'm entitled to it.
It is examples like this that leads Quest to speak truth on the subject matter.
A lot of times the opinions of hip-hop are based on people that are sort of on the outside looking in, and you really have to be immersed in the culture to understand. Yeah. Oftentimes people will use hip hop as a means to get to know people, and you have to get to know people first, then get to know what our culture is and our art form is.
Bingo.
In the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Seminole County, Florida, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman, verdict: we, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty.
And who could forget this shameful decision?
I don't know why the hell Nike made these damn uniforms that have hoods attached to it, by the way. You got a lot of those white folks in the audience that's going to think this is Trayvon Martin being revisited. And I'm not joking about it. Stephen A. Smith did his usual song and dance on the matter, while Questlove had a far different way of viewing it.
As I watched the case, I mean, I identified with Trayvon Martin. Like, I felt like, okay, that would have been me in that situation. I mean, there's definitely been times where I've been watching either a sporting event or the Grammys or any sort of television event, and then I would be the person that would run to the store to get something. Like, that could have easily been me. I live in hoodies. I open a hoodie shop. I have a hoodie shop that sells nothing but hoodies. Like, I love hoodies because it gives me anonymity. When the verdict was handed down, I just felt like, half of me, I instantly felt like, well, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. But then the other half of me was upset that I just resigned to that fact. That whole 8-hour trip on the plane, I just felt like, oh, well, nothing matters anymore. Like, life doesn't matter. Like, you're guilty no matter what, and you just now have to figure out a way just to make everyone feel safe and everyone feel comfortable, even if it's at the expense of your own soul. And so, in talking to my manager about it, who's the first human I talked to when I got off the plane, he too was like sort of echoing that, like, well, why are you acting shocked? Like, you knew exactly this was the outcome. Like, why are you shocked? Like, why are you letting it get to you? And I just felt like I was going to explode right there. So I had to talk to somebody. And so I just started to write for no particular reason. And one person asked if they could, put this on their blog, and then it kind of spread, and the ripple effect happened.
For instance, hip-hop. Hip-hop has done more damage to black and brown people than racism in the last 10 years.
Another preposterous way conservatives look at hip-hop, which Questlove dispels of easily.
I've been noticing, even when writing this, that a lot of people's sort of first look at black life were through the music, and rarely do people actually immerse themselves inside the river. They go right to the edge and see, oh, what are they doing over there? But for Public Enemy, always describe it as, when the punk generation, when the rock generation gets the Ramones, or the punk generation gets Bad Brains or Sex Pistols. Hearing Rebel Without a Pause back in 1987 was that moment for me in which their entire album, well, one, just woke me up, but also their album made what I thought the boring part of my parents' record collection come alive. Yeah. Because suddenly it was wait a minute, where did I know that from? Yeah. Wait a minute, and then you put two and two together, there's no feeling like that discovery.
I submit to you that you're going to have to get people like Jay-Z, Kanye West, all of these gangster rappers to knock it off. That's number one.
What I think these boys need is they need positive role models, which you said.
Listen to me. You got to get where they live. All right, they idolize these guys with the hats on backwards and the terrible rap lyrics and a drug and all of that. You got to get these guys, and I think President Obama can do it. And you got to put them on TV and the net, and they got to say, knock it off.
It's so tiresome to hear this continued on conservative media and even from politicians who lambast hip-hop for brownie points.
Yes, we gave it a birthday. We said August of 1973, but even before August of 1973, the spirit of hip-hop has always been prevalent in black music culture. Even if you look back in the 40s during the Renaissance jazz period, that was seen as outlaw music. Yeah. Hide your daughters. Ray Charles turning gospel music into salacious sexual songs. That was outlaw music. And even if you look at the Last Poets, the Watts Prophets, Gil Scott-Heron, hip-hop, the spirit of hip-hop has always been there. But, we mark the August 1973 day of Kool Herc doing a back-to-school party to raise money for his sister's school clothes.
On Sedgwick Avenue.
On Sedgwick Avenue, as the moment in which you're hearing the breakdowns of songs, that magical 4-bar part where it's just the drums, and it causes excitement in the room. So, so most people will agree that August 73 is the starting date, but hip hop has been here since we've been here.
At some point, hip hop culture just became American culture, right? It's mainstream.
It starts off as a subculture, then dangerous culture, and then becomes everyone's culture.
Amen to that. Angel Reese.
I don't really get to speak, I don't think, just because I just try to ignore, and I just try to stand strong. I've been through so much, I've seen so much, I've been attacked so many times, death threats, I've been sexualized, I've been threatened, I've been so many things, and I've stood strong.
And Caitlin Clark.
I have this amazing platform, so I think the biggest thing would be just encourage people to register to vote. I think for myself, this is the second time I can vote in an election. At age 22, I could vote when I was 18, so I think do that. That's the biggest thing I can do with the platform that I have, and that's the same thing Taylor did.
Has shown the rivalry has simply carried over from college. Recall, though, when this happened.
This was, I don't think you know about this, but this was just posted online by a woman you might have heard of whose name is Taylor Swift. And she has posted this online along with a photo of her cat. And I'm going to read to you what she just posted. Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me, quote me, falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. Then she says, quote, I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we're led by calm and not chaos. I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBTQ plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. I've done my research, and I've made my choice. Your research is all yours to do, and the choice is yours to make. I also want to say, especially to first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you have to be registered. I also find it's much easier to vote early. I will link where to register and find early voting dates and info in my story. With love and hope, Taylor Swift, signed Childless Cat Lady.
We would learn a lot in the wake of this news. Recently, though, Angel Reese commented on a TikTok post from user The Luncheon Lawyer. Here that is.
Oh, I am all in white people's business this week. Like, first Taylor Swift, now Caitlin Clark. So Caitlin Clark liked the Taylor Swift post. You know, the Taylor Swift post. And baby, all of a sudden, all of her alleged fans are withdrawing support. Like, they wanted her to be the face of racism so bad. Whole time, she just wanted to play basketball, get her sponsorships, and go home. Like, turns out she doesn't want to be the brand ambassador for hatred. And this really confirms that a lot of people were never Caitlin fans. You were just Angel Reese haters. Let me say it again. You were never a Caitlin fan. You were an Angel Reese hater. You didn't care about Caitlin Clark's skills. You like the fact that she was a white woman performing exceptionally well in a sport dominated by black women. So instead of appreciating Caitlin for being an incredible, talented player, it was all about being anti-Angel Reese. That's not weird to y'all? Y'all think that's weird? Anyway, I know Caitlin wanted to tell y'all in her comment section that it's not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure, but you know, she kept it cute as a sponsored, well-paid, talented WNBA.
Where Reese comes into the story is this. Via Marca, you left no crumbs, she wrote, indicating her agreement with the video's perspective. This response has provoked a strong backlash, with critics accusing Reese of promoting divisive and harmful rhetoric. No. And whoever the writer is should be ashamed of this, because this is operating in bad faith. The usual suspects were at it, like Clay Travis's Outkick.
Clay's such a fraud. He literally told me back in like 2015, he's like, there's no market out there right now for right-wing sports. He's like, so I'm going to just start like becoming a right-wing sports. He told me what he was going to do.
My question to you guys, where have all y'all been? Seriously. Angel Reese has touched on this on her podcast. We have seen how many other WNBA players responded when Kathy Engelbert was asked a question about revenue. And she was asked a question about how there is racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, anti-gay rhetoric when it comes to the rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. How do you plan on protecting them and other athletes within your sport? And she was the one who said, well, revenue has never been higher. Rivalries make sports. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson laid the groundwork for this to happen. Our athletes are getting brand deals, sponsorship deals. We're selling out arenas. And she kept going to revenue. And that is when many WNBA athletes said, hey, enough. You were asked about our players being mistreated, and all you could talk about is dollars and cents. That's a preposterous way of thinking about this. Previously, in case writers like the ones at Marca have not been paying attention, Reese voiced that she does not believe Clark has any hatred towards her, nor does she have hatred for Clark. She did, though, acknowledge feeling a lack of respect by some of Clark's supporters. Sometimes it's very disrespectful, Reese said. I think there's a lot of racism when it comes to it, and I don't believe she stands on any of that. So, in case we're lacking media literacy here, she is saying she has no animosity towards Caitlin Clark. Let's dispel that. Because I continue seeing this circulated on Musk's free speech platform. She then says she doesn't believe that Caitlin Clark endorses any of this, which, by the way, Clark made clear, quote, everybody in our world deserves the same amount of respect. The women in our league deserve the same amount of respect. So people should not be using my name to push those agendas. So she made it clear. And thus, when she favorited or liked the Taylor Swift Instagram post, her Instagram comments were filled with hate from MAGA, which showed a lot. Thus, it led to this video. So if we are covering all of our bases here by saying we know that Caitlin Clark is not a bigot, she doesn't endorse bigotry, it's the biggest issue is that some that were just coming into being basketball fans saw an opportunity to anoint a white knight. And they thought that she was game, probably because, number one, she is Caucasian, and number two, she's from Iowa. Both of those being clear, ill-informed, misguided approaches into anointing her what they thought she would be when she is not. And quite frankly, let me be clear about this. If her liking that Taylor Swift post drives out the racist fans, you know who would benefit the most? Their fellow players. Their mindsets, their mental health, the product overall. Angel Reese had doctored AI nude photos of her surface. What do you think that would do to you if that happened? She had people follow her to her house. What do you think that would do to you if that were to happen? Another teammate was told that from the fan, they hope her tumor comes back. What would you do about that? And this all happened within the last few months. There is a cause and effect. So Caitlin Clark coming out and saying this, a positive. Angel Reese standing on business and saying, I don't think Caitlin Clark endorses this, but this is a problem that a lot of us are suffering from. And clearly the commissioner doesn't have their back. So it's up to the players. It's up to the union to have protections in place and also root out the racism. These are only big steps in the right direction. But yet, what do we hear from the Outkicks and others? What do we hear? Angel Reese endorsed racist message. No. That is coming from the corner of white fragility. If you think that that was a racist message and that upsets you, hard, long look in the mirror. The problem is a lot of conservatives don't believe in that. They don't believe in self-preservation. They don't believe in trying to have a better understanding of the world. They have a victim complex. And the outcry from Reese leaving that comment says it all. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Wokeness is a virus. It's infectious. It destroys your brain.
Now we will defeat woke radicalism.
The wokeness is very potent.
This woke mindset virus.
The wokeness, this is all we should be talking about.
Woke ideology. Woke executives.
Florida is where woke goes to die.
This is what happens when you go woke. The saying is, you go broke.
Lego is going woke.
Wokeness It is the boogeyman that Fox News, insurrectionists, and Republicans fearmonger with their voters to despise anything and everything they are against in the effort to erode public education in the United States.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
And for that, we turn to this guy's state, Alabama. But before doing so, recall Tommy Smith and John Carlos pictured here, reaching the medal stand at the 1968 Mexico Olympics. Like others who have followed, Smith and Carlos protested systemic racism, which was full of symbolism.
The right glove that I wore on my right hand signified the power within Black America. The left glove my teammate John Carlos wore on his left hand also signified Black unity. The scarf that was worn around my neck signified blackness.
One would think this is American history, sports history, that unfortunately remains prevalent today through a failed system. In Alabama, they thought otherwise. In schools across the country with Republicans in power, this is the site of many academies. Racist book bans catering to unfounded white fear. Fun fact, the teacher who took the video you just saw was fired. Darn cancel culture strikes again. Derek Barnes, seen here on right, wrote the following book about Smith on left, which was titled Victory, Stand, Raising My Fist for Justice.
They all just go.
Conservatives in the area heard of this and did the following. Barnes, a New York Times bestseller, had his events canceled in Birmingham. He said it was political. The schools refuted him, saying it was a contract issue. However, they would later admit why. Because parents objected to his presence. Superintendent D. Fowler, pictured here, would spill the tea. An elementary school principal was contacted by a parent who alleged some of Barnes's prior social media posts contained controversial ideas. When local outlet WBHM asked for copies of the post, no one at the school system was able to produce it. Upon further inquiry, a spokesperson for the school system also admitted that no school officials had even seen the post. Barnes would call it cowardly and say, if you have an issue with Black authors or somebody that you may consider possibly indoctrinating your children, just say that. Don't come up with these excuses. That's when some parents, distraught by a fellow parent's unfounded claims, turned a negative into a positive. Hundreds came together to raise a portion of the $9,900 Barnes would have been paid for the events. Parents, teachers, and school board members signed a letter demanding transparency for the cancellation. Hoover is one of the most diverse school systems in the state. The district's website says educators are committed to meeting the diverse needs of students and remedying inequities. Clearly, they do not mean as they say. This all happened because in Alabama, the state's Board of Education adopted a resolution in 2021 titled Declaring the Preservation of Intellectual Freedom and Non-Discrimination in Alabama's Public Schools, which, according to the Legal Defense Fund, prevents educators from teaching the full and accurate history of racial discrimination and civil rights in Alabama and the United States. I would reiterate cancel culture here, but every Republican talking point feels like, at a minimum, just projection of their own wrongdoing. Misty Matthews' son attends one of the schools Barnes was supposed to visit. She is frustrated. If you looked at his books, they're not controversial, Matthews said. They just involve Black kids doing regular, everyday things. So to tell this author you're not welcome here, it really sends a message that I don't think Hoover City Schools should be sending, or that they want to send. Now, the parents would raise thousands since the canceled visit. They are supporting a charity of Barnes's liking and funded a book drive to distribute his work. I write about Black joy, Black freedom, Barnes said. And if someone was offended by that, I can't do anything about that. A librarian would go on to read Barnes's books in front of a room full of children. However, as Kent Haynes, a math teacher at Simmons Middle School, said to AL.com, we all teach children who would benefit from the opportunity of meeting an author who looks like them and shares their cultural background and is a role model for them. This was such a great one of those opportunities that we've now lost.